Intuitive eating has become a bit of a buzzword online, but what does intuitive eating really mean? And what does it look like if you're eating intuitively? If you're new to intuitive eating and are curious about how it might be the solution for your overeating, stay tuned because throughout this video, I'm going to be covering the 10 principles of intuitive eating, a guide for intuitive eating for beginners. On this channel, you'll learn the science behind why you overeat and take home tangible strategies to improve your relationship with food and your body. If this sounds like just what you need, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell in the corner so you don't miss a video. I publish every Wednesday. I'm Meredith MacKenzie of Parallel Wellness. I'm a clinical therapist and an intuitive eating coach. I've helped hundreds of women with poor body image and feeling out of control with food to really attune to their body's hunger and fullness cues, to respect their bodies, accept their bodies, and make peace with food so that they can fully engage and participate in their lives. Let's get one thing straight before we start. Intuitive eating is a term that the diet industry has wised up to and recognized as a hot topic. And they've co-opted it to mean things that are not truly healthy and not the true meaning of intuitive eating. Which is why I'm glad you're here to learn the true definition of intuitive eating and how it can help you to make peace with and find freedom from food. Simply put, intuitive eating is a weight-neutral approach that encourages you to truly attune to your body's needs so that you can nourish it according to those needs. There are no good or bad foods to worry about, and ultimately you develop a relationship with your body that is trusting and respectful. You could call it an anti-diet. Now, if you want to know more about intuitive eating that you're not going to find in this video, click the link in the description below where I have linked to the book that was written by Evelyn Tribble and Elise Resch, the creators of intuitive eating. Now, let's get into the 10 principles of intuitive eating. As you begin your intuitive eating journey, you first need to recognize and acknowledge the overwhelming impact that diet culture has on you, regardless of your engagement with dieting. As we learned in last week's video, diets don't work, and yet the diet industry and everyone who, feeds into them is hell-bent on making sure that they promote dieting in new and creative ways. Now, let me save any more of your precious time and tell you a not-so-secret secret. Diets don't work, and they only make you feel worse about yourself in the long run. But the promises that diets give you are tempting and hard to let go of, which is why rejecting the diet mentality is the first step in becoming an intuitive eater. You can't move forward if you're still stuck in the diet mentality. One moment fully invested in creating a better relationship with food in your body, and the next trying out the next fad diet. This principle focuses on science-based education so you can be informed about how dieting impacts you, and you can make decisions for yourself about what will be best for you and your body moving forward. Dieting has taught you to ignore your internal cues of hunger and instead to follow an external plan for exercise and eating. When you feel hungry, you learn to tell yourself, no, I'm fine, I don't need a larger portion, or I can hold off on eating. So instead of listening to these cues, we really dampen them. And the problem is, then we desensitize ourselves to our internal cues. Your body knows what it needs though, and it's your job to listen. This step takes time because you're used to ignoring your hunger cues. You'll practice attuning to your body and responding to those needs, as well as recognizing your hunger habits and patterns. This may be surprising, but one of the biggest ways that you can avoid overeating is to actually eat before you become overhungry. You might notice that binging often happens if you skip lunch, or you wait a long time between lunch and dinner, or even if you eat an unsatisfying meal throughout the day. The goal of this step is to honor your hunger by listening to your body and then responding accordingly. If you have a history of dieting, you probably have a list of foods that you shouldn't eat, or you at least try to avoid eating. These also might be the foods that trigger you to overeat if you struggle with that. And they might be foods that you vow not to even keep in the house because it's too tempting. Well, the next intuitive eating principle is to make peace with food and to give yourself permission to eat anything and everything. This is where intuitive eating can be confusing for some and gets an unfair reputation as encouraging a free-for-all with food. That's not the case at all. But when you think about intuitive eating as a phased practice, it's important to release yourself from the taboo that these foods hold over you so that you're able to make decisions more freely about what you want and need to satisfy your body. Sure, in the beginning, when you're finally allowing yourself to eat all the foods that have been off limits, you're going to tend to overeat. Cue the anxiety. But fear not, this won't last forever, and eventually your cravings and urges for these foods will subside and you'll start to eat in a more balanced way. Feel counterintuitive, but in order to become an intuitive eater who doesn't lose control around the foods that you love, you need to loosen the reins on these foods so that they don't have the same power over you. Let me guess, as I mentioned, giving yourself full permission to eat anything and everything in the last principle, that little voice in the background started yelling at me, and maybe even you heard yourself say, I am not going to be doing that principle. Well, that is the voice of your food police. I created a video on the food police a long time ago, but if you would like to learn more about it, you can watch the video in this card here. The food police is that internalized voice of diet culture, and it watches over everything you eat and every way you move and exercise your body and tells you how you can be dieting better. And unfortunately, this voice tends to stick around for quite a while, which can make intuitive eating quite challenging. In this principle, you learn how to challenge this nasty voice and how you can cultivate more allied voices to help you along your journey in intuitive eating. Discovering the satisfaction factor is my favorite intuitive eating principle. It is so much fun. When you restrict the foods that you're allowed to eat, you likely put them into all or nothing categories. Things I can eat and things I shouldn't eat. And the shouldn't eat category gets filled with high calorie, high fat, high carbohydrate foods, regardless of all the other factors that go into the way a food tastes. They're very much simplified as high calorie, no-no foods. But food satisfaction comes from so many aspects, including aroma and texture and flavor and temperature and consistency and heaviness in our body. And when we put the foods in just a very simple I shouldn't eat category, we lose this, nuance to the foods that we're eating. And this is the big reason that personally Taco Bell became my biggest cheat day food, because it had nothing to do with what it really tasted like. It was just a food that I believed I shouldn't be eating. However, now that I've explored the satisfaction factor of food, I honestly don't even really like Taco Bell. No offense, Taco Bell. I love, though, Baja-style fresh tacos from the local restaurant because of all those other variables that make that food so delicious to me. That's just not the same as Taco Bell, and it's really opened up my experience in satisfaction with food. This principle is fun because you get to be a scientist and explore your taste buds with food and what you truly and genuinely like. It also helps you learn what you really care about with food so that you can make decisions, not to eat something if it doesn't measure up to what you like. If it's not satisfying, you don't have to eat it. This goes a long way when we consider how overeating tends to just go into that category of those do not eat foods, when really maybe some of those foods might not be anything that we would really genuinely want to eat, but we haven't given ourselves that opportunity because we're so afraid of going near them. Any of these principles of intuitive eating surprise you, or are they new to you? Comment below and let me know what is new to you and what you're learning from this video. Now that you've given yourself permission to eat, the next principle in the intuitive eating principles is to feel your fullness. In the beginning, the excitement and thrill of eating the foods that have, traditionally been off limits to you can make it really hard for you to attune to your fullness, which is why this principle is later in the timeline. This principle involves continuing to develop your relationship with your body and attuning to the cues that it gives you of when it's satisfied and when it's full. This step can be really scary for a lot of people because in the past, when you've struggled with overeating, the sensation of fullness can be associated with feelings of guilt. Whereas now we're trying to have a new experience with the sensation of fullness that's more neutral or even pleasant. So we know there is a lot more to overeating than just food. Emotions like boredom, stress, anxiety, feeling overwhelmed, uncertainty, sadness, loneliness can all contribute to why we overeat. The after work, TV, and snack scenario is something that almost all of my clients can relate to. The issue is, though, when you cope with your feelings with food, it's threefold, really. 1, you're not solving the problem. 2, you're creating a habit for yourself that when you do have a problem and things are feeling uncomfortable and unpleasant emotionally, that the habit is that we cope with food. And so it becomes something that's really ingrained and repetitive. And 3, you're likely to feel even more negative emotions or unpleasant emotions because you stack on guilt and shame because you've now overeaten and you feel crummy about yourself. This principle focuses on coping with your emotions, which is a big piece, and being self-compassionate when you do feel something or when you do overeat, because it's such a challenging and complicated process as you go through to become an intuitive eater. Now, I'm going to say something that might be hard for you to accept and swallow where you're at currently, but your body deserves love, respect, dignity, decency. When you wish that your body were different than how it is, it can be really difficult to cultivate any kind of kindness or love towards it. And I'm not by any means, encouraging you to toxically love all parts of your body, but it's starting at a basic level with having respect and decency for your body. Your body deserves sleep, nourishment, and movement. And when you begin treating your body more gently, you'll have a greater capacity to forgive it for how it doesn't measure up. As an ex-dieter professional, I used to see exercise as an unpleasant necessity. I'd be militant with myself and I would focus on the calories that I burned or the distance I ran, and it wasn't pleasant. I didn't look forward to it. I dreaded my workouts. I pushed myself through, and if I didn't work out, I'd be racked with guilt. The movement principle of intuitive eating is not just about exercise, but it's about movement in general. There are no outcome expectations, but it's more so focused on the in-the-moment process and experience of moving your body. This has opened up my love for hiking and even going on casual walks in my neighborhood, or getting up and making movement throughout my day when I'm sitting at my desk working a priority because it feels good in my body, not because I have to. As with other principles in intuitive eating, the movement principle incorporates a lot of experimentation so you can find what type of movement works for you and what feels good for your body and, have fun with it. Finally, the 10th principle of intuitive eating is gentle nutrition. And this principle is last because of all the internal work that is necessary with all the other principles before you can be of a mindset where you can begin, really considering in a respectful way how you would like to nourish your body that isn't seeded and filled with diet culture mentality. This principle focuses on what feels good in your body and, tunes out that nagging voice of the food police. You continue to honor your hunger and the satisfaction that you find with food while also honoring the fullness that you feel in your body. There's no shame or guilt or diet culture in the background celebrating your food decisions. Now, this is just a brief summary of the 10 principles of intuitive eating. And if you'd like to learn more, I'm going to be digging into and giving you some at-home strategies that you can be using according to each principle in the coming weeks. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of those videos. If you're wanting to know more about your eating style and how your habits might be impacting why you overeat, click the link in the description box down below to take my free quiz and learn more about how your eating habits might be getting in your way. From my experience, overeating in the evening is one of the biggest things that my clients struggle with, and I think it might be something that you feel as well. So if you're ready to start making changes and improve your relationship with food, download my free 5 Steps to End Overeating at Night guide in the description box down below. If you found this video helpful, let me know by giving it a like and subscribing to the channel so you don't miss any future videos that I'll be publishing every Wednesday. And go ahead and share this video with a friend or family member or anyone that you think might benefit from learning about the 10 principles of intuitive eating.